Ever wonder what your peer is doing in space management policy, dealing with the times that have changed since COVID? Lots of work from home agreements changing over time, states getting people back in there. How good is your asset inventory? All the dynamics that we see are changing fast and furious today in 2025. And so it's why I'm so pleased on this Bowtie Tuesday for Andrew Sama to be joining me. Andrew, welcome to Bowtie Tuesday.
Thanks, Aaron. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm gonna have to ship you a bow tie so that the next time we do this, we're gonna be both rocking bow ties. But yeah, great to have you on.
Happy to do it.
Would you just love giving for people who don't know you, just where you've been and kind of the
Yep.
industry, your roles before, and then we'll get to talk about this awesome survey that's been created.
Yeah, Aaron. So for the last 4 years, roughly, I've been with Huron Consulting Group, working directly with colleges and universities across the country on space and facilities issues. But before that, I spent 13 years on campus at the University of Notre Dame, where I helped establish the first centralized space management group at that institution. And so I've lived the day-to-day of managing space on a college campus and all its complexities. I know how hard it is and some of the challenges that my former colleagues are facing, and I'm excited to bring this survey to bear to try to, with your help, to try to help, folks understand where things are going in the industry and where things are working and where there's opportunities. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, so let's talk about the survey. So I'm sure a lot of people are like, great, another survey. I got to fill out. Why does this one even matter? Right. So maybe let's start there. Like, why are we creating this other survey to collect data? Like, what's either the core challenge, problems, or things we're trying to bring light to?
Yeah. So understand survey fatigue for sure, right? But this one I think is not a big lift. Let's start there. So it's asking you about trends. What's going on? For example, when was the last time you updated your workplace space use policy, right? Does your workplace space use policy tie specifically, the days of remote work to the type of allocation of space? It's questions like this that are getting at trends in the industry to help you as a space leader on your campus facilitate conversations about where things are on your campus, where things are on peers' campuses, and maybe what some of the best practices are. So yes, it's another survey, but we think it's targeting a niche that's not really being met at the moment, and it's not a big lift, right? So if you can spare 20 to 30 minutes of your time, we think the payoff is tremendous in the way that it can support really important conversations about a very valuable resource on your campus.
Right. I mean, I think it's fair to say the world's changed since COVID, right? And so all the policies that are being created are new, different legislations coming out that's new that might affect, workforce, but also just how students, faculty, and staff are using campus is changing so much. We have this whole new, even facility analytics in this new realm for some of the stuff that we do or others do. That's also just new, right? So there's so much new, with also rising cost and all these other things that we haven't always had, right? There's these new problems, and it's like, how do we help share for others and create a better community around what are other people doing?
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's
That's exactly it, right? I mean, and let me back out even further than, you just hinted at a few of the things that are going on, but, I'll just mention that since 2019, right, costs overall in the facilities realm are, this would be campus construction costs up 20%, right, is what we see in some of the studies. That's on top of, what we know from some of the great work at Gordian and other places, is a really growing backlog of deferred maintenance, right? This is causing real pressure. You're starting to see this now on campuses where, there's material impacts to the quality of space, right? And to the operations of space. And that's happening in an environment now because of some of the changes you allude to, right? Around flexible work, around, remote learning, that I've walked on a lot of campuses in the last 4 years. I know you have too. And I want to be clear, there's pros and cons, right? Or there's good cases and some bad cases, right? But I walk through a lot of campuses where there's very empty office space.
Yeah.
Right. And that's putting real pressure on leadership, right? Whether that's political, whether that's governance from a board or something. They're walking through campuses that are aging, where there's big bills coming due, right? And they're not seeing usage. And that's creating real challenges and pressure that's coming to fruition for leadership on these campuses. And so what do we do? And I think this survey is a piece of how we get to some of those answers, right? I think the kind of work that you all do at CampusIQ, generating that real-time utilization data is another really important aspect of it, right? And we at Huron can help with sort of taking action once you figure out what it is that you want to do.
Right.
But I think it starts with understanding, like a lot of things in higher ed, benchmarking, what are the trends, what's working, what are my peers doing? This survey is going to get you going there.
Right. Because it is more than just data, right? There's policy, there's change management, right? There's just so many dynamics that are shifting. And I know it's true for me, but like a lot of times, even in the same states, when we talk to some of these leaders, like they don't even know really what some of those other institutions are actually doing, especially on all these kinds of matters, right? Maybe they have a meeting or catch up once a month or a quarter or a year, right? And so they have a little idea. And I think what's kind of brilliant about this is how do we start having better conversations and really seeing who's doing what and who's figured out something that's working. So I know another question that's going to be asked though is, okay, what data am I going to go need to look up or go and fill out all these, all these questions that you're going to ask?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you won't need to do much, right? Like I said, I would challenge you. I think there's going to be a lot of folks who know their campuses decently well that can probably not open a spreadsheet and do this, right? There's a couple questions at the start that ask you about how much gross square footage you own and operate.
Right.
Once we get through that, honestly, it's not a lot of numbers, right? It's questions like, is your inventory growing, shrinking, or staying the same? What kind of data points are you collecting? What do your governance and policies look like around certain issues, right? We're asking a lot of questions that are meant to identify trends and surface issues. And we've got a number of places where you can input free text answers, right? We're trying to surface those case studies of things that are working well. And what are we hearing are consistently, challenges across the industry. At the end of the day, right, having sat in a space management chair on a campus myself, I was thinking about what did I need when I was in that chair, right? And a lot of times what you need is some prompt to be able to go to leadership and say, we need a change. One of the fundamental dynamics that we see that makes management of space tricky on college campuses is that oftentimes the people who are day-to-day managing it, right, folks in the facilities group, in the planning or space management group, right, even folks in the buildings, they don't have full control of it. And so there's this interplay that has to go on between the folks who are, domain experts, if you will, around the use of space and how to optimize, and the people who are the end users of the space, right? The folks who are in it, teaching class, doing the work, right?
Yep.
And so to get that conversation going, we think information like what would come out of this survey would be very helpful.
Awesome. So I know another question, and maybe the last question that people would be asking is, okay, so what do I get for it? Right. So I collect all this data. Why should, okay, fine. It's 20 minutes. Fine. I don't need to look up really anything on my campus. Why would I participate in this? What do I get for it?
So you can opt in, right? And I don't know why anybody would opt out, but we have made it an optional thing. You can opt in to receive a summary report that'll give anonymized peer comparisons. So we'll protect the confidentiality. We'll say things like, this is an R1 or this is an R2 or something like that, but we're not going to get into the specifics. So it's anonymized data. And so you'll be able to see how your institution is stacking up in terms of its governance model, in terms of the way it does strategy, in terms of its policy environment, and you'll have that report out to you that you can use for those conversations, right? And, the more people that participate, the better the data set gets, right? So take 20 minutes, fill this out, tell a friend, and, I think we can really do something to move the conversation forward for our higher education institutions, right? We've got to get this right. This is one of the biggest, resources on any college campus behind the human capital, right? Is this facilities and space resource, and institutions just under tremendous pressure to manage it well. We want to help with that. We think we can do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say at the end of the day, if you want to know where you stack up, right? Are you leading? Yeah. Are you in the middle of the pack? Are you behind on some issues? This is a great free way, right? Where if you essentially donate 20 minutes of your time, all of a sudden you're going to be able to get a report back that goes, here's where you're leading, here's where you're in the middle, here's where you're behind. And then are able to make the decisions on your campus of, hey, are we okay with this? Are we not okay with this? But ultimately have better leadership conversations.
Exactly it.
Awesome.
Very excited for it.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining this special Bow Tie Tuesday. Always great talking with you.
I'll come back with a bow tie next time.
Fantastic.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.